Hello everyone, Disha here. Welcome back to this video. We left at the 40th shlok in the last video and we're going to start with the 41st shlok in this video and cover this entire chapter, which is the universal form, in this video. So coming to the 41st and 42nd shlok, it says, "Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you, O Krishna, O Yadav, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offences." Now coming to the explanation of the shlok. Although Krishna is manifested before Arjun in his universal form, Arjun remembers his friendly relationship with Krishna and is therefore asking pardon and requesting Krishna to excuse him for the many informal gestures which arise out of friendship. He is admitting that formally he did not know that Krishna could assume such a universal form, although Krishna explained it as his intimate friend. Arjun did not know how many times he may have dishonored Krishna by addressing him, "O my friend, O Krishna, O Yadav," etc., without acknowledging his opulence. But Krishna is so kind and merciful that in spite of such opulence, he played with Arjun as a friend. Such is the transcendental loving reciprocation between the devotee and the Lord. The relationship between the living entity and Krishna is fixed eternally. It cannot be forgotten, as we can see from the behavior of Arjun. Although Arjun has seen the opulence in the universal form, he cannot forget his friendly relationship with Krishna. Now coming to the 43rd slok, it says, "You are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation of the moving and the non-moving. You are the worshipable chief, the supreme spiritual master. No one is equal to you, nor can anyone be one with you. How then could there be anyone greater than you within the three worlds, O Lord of immeasurable power?" Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is worshipable as the Father is worshipable for his Son. He is the spiritual master because he originally gave the Vedic instructions to Brahma, and presently he is also instructing Bhagavad Gita to Arjun. He is the original spiritual master, and any bona fide spiritual master at the present moment must be a descendant in the line of disciplic succession stemming from Krishna. Without being a representative of Krishna, one cannot become a teacher or spiritual master of transcendental subject matter. The Lord is being paid obeisances in all respects. He is of immeasurable greatness. No one can be greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, because no one is equal to or higher than Krishna within any manifestation, spiritual or material. Everyone is below him. No one can excel him. The Supreme Lord Krishna has senses and a body like the ordinary man, but for him there is no difference between his senses, his body, his mind and himself. Foolish persons who do not perfectly know him say that Krishna is different from his soul, mind, heart and everything else. Krishna is absolute, therefore his activities and potencies are supreme. It is also stated that although he does not have senses like ours, he can perform all sensory activities, therefore his senses are neither imperfect nor limited. No one can be greater than him, no one can be equal to him, and everyone is lower than him. The knowledge, strength and activities of the Supreme Personality are all transcendental. Whoever knows Krishna's transcendental body, activities and perfection after quitting his body returns to him and doesn't come back again to this miserable world. Therefore, one should know that Krishna's activities are different from others. The best policy is to follow the principles of Krishna that will make one perfect. It is also stated that there is no one who is master of Krishna, everyone is his servant. The Chaitanya Karitamrita confirms, only Krishna is God and everyone else is his servant. Everyone is complying with his order. There is no one who can deny his order. Everyone is acting according to his direction, being under his superintendence. As stated in the Brahma Samhiti, it is the cause of all causes. Now coming to the 44th shlok, which says, "You are the Supreme Lord, to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down to offer you many respectful obeisances and ask your mercy. As a father tolerates the impudence of his son, a friend the impertinence of a friend, or a husband the familiarity of his wife, please tolerate the wrongs I may have done you." Now coming to the explanation of the shlok. Krishna's devotees relate to Krishna in various relationships. One might treat Krishna as a son, or one might treat Krishna as a husband, as a friend, or a master. Krishna and Arjuna are related in friendship. As the father tolerates, or the husband or master tolerates, so Krishna tolerates. Now coming to the 45th slok, which says, after seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead, O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. Arjuna is always in confidence with Krishna because he is a very dear friend, and as a dear friend is gladdened by his friend's opulence. Arjuna is very joyful to see that his friend Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can show such a wonderful universal form. But at the same time, after seeing that universal form, he is afraid that he has committed so many offences to Krishna out of his unalloyed friendship. Thus his mind is disturbed out of fear, although he has no reason to fear. Arjuna therefore is asking Krishna to show his Narayan form because he can assume any form. This universal form is material and temporary, as the material world is temporary. But in the Vaikuntha planets, he has his transcendental form with his 4 hands as Narayan. There are innumerable planets in the spiritual sky, and in each of them Krishna is present by his plenary manifestations of different names. Thus Arjuna desired to see one of the forms manifest in the Vaikuntha planets. Of course, in each Vaikuntha planet, the form of Narayan is 4-handed, but the 4 hands hold different arrangements of symbols. The conch shell, maze, lotus and disc. According to the different hands these 4 things are held in, the Narayans are variously named. All of those forms are one with Krishna, therefore Arjuna requests to see his 4-handed feature. Now coming to the 46th slok, which says, O universal form, O 1000-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your 4-armed form with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see you in that form. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. In the Brahma Samhita it is stated, the Lord is eternally situated in hundreds and thousands of forms, and the main forms are those like Ram, Narsim, Narayan, etc. There are innumerable forms. But Arjuna knew that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, assuming his temporary universal form. He is now asking to see the form of Narayana, a spiritual form. This verse establishes without any doubt the statement of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and all other features originate from him. He is not different from his plenary expansions, and he is God in any of his innumerable forms. In all of these forms he is fresh like a young man. That is the constant feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who knows Krishna becomes free at once from all contamination of the material world. Now coming to the 47th slok, it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, happily I have shown you by my internal potency this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. Now coming to the explanation of the shlok. Arjuna wanted to see the universal form of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Krishna, out of his mercy upon his devotee Arjuna, showed his universal form, full of effulgence and opulence. This form was glaring like the sun, and its many faces were rapidly changing. Krishna showed this form not just to satisfy the desire of his friend Arjuna. This form was manifested by Krishna through his eternal potency, which is inconceivable by human speculation. No one had seen this universal form of the Lord before Arjuna, but because the form was shown to Arjuna, other devotees in the heavenly planets and in other planets in outer space could also see it. They had not seen it before, but because of Arjuna they were also able to see it. In other words, all the disciplic devotees of the Lord could see the universal form which was shown to Arjuna by the mercy of Krishna. Someone had commented that this form was shown to Duryodhana also when Krishna went to Duryodhana to negotiate for peace. Unfortunately, Duryodhana did not accept the peace offer, but at that time Krishna manifested some of his universal forms. But those forms are different from this one shown to Arjuna. It is clearly said that no one had ever seen this form before. Now coming to the 48th slok, which says, O best of the Kuru warriors, No one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine. For neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, nor by severe penances, can I be seen in this form in the material world. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. The divine vision in this connection should be clearly understood. Who can have divine vision? Divine means godly. Unless one attains the status of divinity as a demigod, he cannot have divine vision. And what is a demigod? It is stated in the Vedic scriptures that those who are devotees of Lord Vishnu are demigods. Those who are atheistic, that is, who do not believe in Vishnu or who recognize only the impersonal part of Krishna as the supreme, cannot have the divine vision. It is not possible to decree Krishna and at the same time have the divine vision. One cannot have the divine vision without becoming divine. In other words, those who have divine vision can also see like Arjun. Bhagavad Gita gives the description of the universal form, although this description was unknown to everyone before Arjun. Now one can have some idea of the Visvaroop after this incident. Those who are actually divine can see the universal form of the Lord, but one cannot be divine without being a pure devotee of Krishna. The devotees, however, who are actually in the divine nature and who have divine vision are not very much interested in seeing the universal form of the Lord. As described in the previous verse, Arjun desired to see the four-handed form of Lord Krishna as Vishnu, and he was actually afraid of the universal form. In this verse, there are some significant words which refer to studying Vedic literature and the subject matter of sacrificial regulations. Veda refers to all kinds of Vedic literature, such as the four Veds, Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharva, and the 18 Puranas, the Upanishads, and the Vedanta Sutra. One can study these at home or anywhere else. Similarly, there are sutras, Kalpa Sutras, and Mimamsa Sutras for studying the method of sacrifice. Danya refers to charity which is offered to a suitable party, such as those who are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Voluntary acceptance of some bodily pains is called tapas or tapasya. So one can perform all these, can accept bodily penances, give charity, study the Vedas, etc. But unless he is the devotee like Arjun, it is not possible to see that universal form. Those who are impersonalists are also imagining that they are seeing the universal form of the Lord. But from Bhagavad Gita, we understand that the impersonalists are not devotees. Therefore, they are unable to see the universal form of the Lord. There are many persons who create incarnations. They falsely claim an ordinary human to be an incarnation. But this is all foolishness. We should follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita, otherwise there is no possibility of attaining perfect spiritual knowledge. Although Bhagavad Gita is considered the preliminary study of the science of God, still it is so perfect that it enables one to distinguish what is what. The followers of a pseudo-incarnation may say that they have also seen the transcendental incarnation of God, the universal form, but that is unacceptable because it is clearly stated here that unless one becomes a devotee of Krishna, one cannot see the universal form of God. So one first of all has to become a pure devotee of Krishna. Then he can claim that he can show the universal form of what he has seen. A devotee of Krishna cannot accept false incarnations or followers of false incarnations. Now coming to the 49th slok, which says, "You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire." Now coming to the explanation of the shlok. The purpose of the revelation of the universal form was shown. Now Arjun wanted to see the four-armed form and Krishna showed him. A devotee is not much interested in the universal form, for it does not enable one to reciprocate loving feelings. Either a devotee wants to offer his respectful, worshipful feelings, or he wants to see the two-handed Krishna form so that he can reciprocate in loving service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now coming to the 50th slok, it says, Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjun, displayed his real four-armed form and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjun. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. When Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he first of all appeared as four-armed Narayan. But when he was requested by his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child in appearance. Similarly, Krishna knew that Arjun was not interested in seeing a four-handed form. But since Arjun asked to see this four-handed form, Krishna also showed him this form again and then showed himself in his two-handed form. The word Soumya Vapu is very significant. Soumya Vapu is a very beautiful form. It is known as the most beautiful form. When he was present, everyone was attracted simply by Krishna's form, and because Krishna is the director of the universe, he just banished the fear of Arjun, his devotee, and showed him again his beautiful form of Krishna. In the Brahma Samhiti it is stated, only a person whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love can see the beautiful form of Shri Krishna. Now coming to the 54th slok, which says, when Arjun thus saw Krishna in his universal form, he said, O Janardhan, seeing this human-like form, so very beautiful, I am now composed in mind, and I am restored to my original nature. Now coming to the explanation of the slok. Here the words Manusam Rupam clearly indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be originally two-handed. Those who deride Krishna as if he were an ordinary person are shown here to be ignorant of this divine nature. If Krishna is like an ordinary human being, then how is it possible for him to show the universal form and again to show the four-handed Narayan form? So it is very clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that one who thinks that Krishna is an ordinary person and who misguides the reader by claiming that it is the impersonal Brahman within Krishna speaking is doing the greatest injustice. Krishna has actually shown his universal form and his four-handed Vishnu form. So how can he be an ordinary human being? A pure devotee is not confused by misguiding commentaries on Bhagavad Gita because he knows what is what. The original verses of Bhagavad Gita are as clear as the sun. They do not require lamplight from foolish commenters. Now coming to the 52nd slok, which says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjun, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear. Now coming to the explanation of the slok. In the 48th verse of this chapter, Lord Krishna concluded revealing his universal form and informed Arjun that this form is not possible to be seen by so many pious activities, sacrifices, etc. Now here is the word Sudur Darsam is used, indicating that Krishna's two-handed form is still more confidential. One may be able to see the universal form of Krishna by adding a little tinge of devotional service to various activities like penances, Vedic study and philosophical speculation. It may be possible, but without a tinge of bhakti, one cannot see. That has already been explained. Still beyond that universal form, the form of Krishna with his two hands is still more difficult to see, even for demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiv. They desire to see him, and we have evidence in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when he was supposed to be in the womb of his mother, Devaki, all the demigods from heaven came to see the marvel of Krishna, and they offered nice prayers to the Lord, although he was not at that time visible to them. They waited to see him. A foolish person may deride him, thinking him an ordinary person, and may offer respect not to him, but to the impersonal something within him. But these are all nonsensical postures. Krishna in his two-armed form is actually desired to be seen by demigods like Brahma and Shiv. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also confirmed that Krishna is not visible to the foolish persons who deride him. Krishna's body, as confirmed by the Brahma Samhiti and confirmed by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, is completely spiritual. His body is never like a material body. But for some who make a study of Krishna by reading Bhagavad Gita or similar Vedic scriptures, Krishna is a problem. For one, using a material process, Krishna is considered to be a great historical personality and very learned philosopher. But he is an ordinary man. And even though he was so powerful, he had to accept a material body. Ultimately, they think that the absolute truth is impersonal. Therefore, they think that from his impersonal feature, he assumed a personal feature attached to material nature. This is a materialistic calculation of the Supreme Lord. Another calculation is speculative. Those who are in search of knowledge also speculate on Krishna and consider him to be less important than the universal form of the Supreme. Thus, some think that the universal form of Krishna, which was manifested to Arjun, is more important than his personal form. According to him, the personal form of the Supreme is something imaginary. They believe that in the ultimate issue, the absolute truth is not a person, but the transcendental process is described in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, to hear about Krishna from authorities. That is the actual Vedic process, and those who are actually in the Vedic line hear about Krishna from authority, and by repeated hearing about him, Krishna becomes dear. As we have several times discussed, Krishna is covered by his Yoga Maya potency. He is not to be seen or revealed to anyone and everyone. Only by one to whom he reveals himself can he be seen. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature. For one who is a surrendered soul, the absolute truth can actually be understood. The transcendentalist, by continuous Krishna consciousness and by devotional service to Krishna, can have his spiritual eyes opened and can see Krishna by revelation. Such a revelation is not possible even for the demigods. Therefore, it is difficult even for the demigods to understand Krishna, and the advanced demigods are always in hope of seeing Krishna in his two-handed form. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand his personal form as Syam Sundara. Now coming to the 53rd slok, which says, the form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. Now coming to the explanation of the shlok. Krishna first appeared before his parents Devaki and Vasudev in a four-handed form, and then he transformed himself into the two-handed form. This mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheists or who are devoid of devotional service. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by way of grammatical knowledge or mere academic qualification, Krishna is not possible to understand, nor is he to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship. They make their visit, but they cannot understand Krishna as he is. Krishna can be understood only through the path of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself in the next verse. Now coming to the 54th slok, which says, my dear Arjun, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way you can enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Now coming to the explanation of the shlok. Krishna can be understood only by the process of undivided devotional service. He explicitly explains this in this verse so that unauthorized commentators who try to understand Bhagavad Gita by their speculative process will know that they are simply wasting their time. No one can understand Krishna or how he came from parents in a four-handed form and at once changed himself into a two-handed form. These things are very difficult to understand by study of the Vedas or by philosophical speculation. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that no one can see him or enter into understanding of these matters. Those who, however, are very experienced students of Vedic literature can learn about him from the Vedic literature in so many ways. There are so many rules and regulations, and if one at all wants to understand Krishna, he must follow the regulative principles described in the authoritative literature. One can perform penance in accordance with those principles. One who has unflinching devotion for the Supreme Lord and is directed by the spiritual master, in whom he has similar unflinching faith, can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead by revelation. One cannot understand Krishna by mental speculation. For one who does not take personal training under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, it is impossible to even begin to understand Krishna. The word tu is specifically used here to indicate that no other process can be used, can be recommended, or can be successful in understanding Krishna. The personal forms of Krishna, the two-handed form and the four-handed, are described as Sudurdarsan, very difficult to see. They are completely different from the temporary universal form shown to Arjun. The four-handed form of Narayan and the two-handed form of Krishna are eternal and transcendental, whereas the universal form exhibited to Arjun is temporary. Although they suggest that amongst the devotees there was no necessity of showing it, that form was exhibited by Krishna at the request of Arjun so that in the future, when one represents himself as an incarnation of God, people can ask to see his universal form. The word na, used repeatedly in the previous verse, indicates that one should not be very much proud of such credentials as an academic education in Vedic literature. One must take to devotional service of Krishna. Only then can one attempt to write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. Krishna changes from the universal form to the four-handed form of Narayan and then to his own natural form of two hands. This indicates that the four-handed forms and other forms mentioned in Vedic literature are all emanations of the original two-handed Krishna. He is the origin of all emanations. Krishna is distinct even from these forms, what to speak of the impersonal conception. As far as the four-handed forms of Krishna are concerned, it is stated clearly that even the most identical four-handed form of Krishna, which is known as Mahavishnu, who is lying on the cosmic ocean and from whose breathing so many innumerable universes are passing out and entering, is also an expansion of the Supreme Lord. As stated in the Brahma Samiti, the Mahavishnu into whom all the innumerable universes enter and from whom they come forth again simply by his breathing process, is a plenary expansion of Krishna. Therefore, I worship Govind, Krishna, the cause of all causes. He is the source of all forms of Vishnu. He is the source of all forms of incarnation, and he is the original Supreme Personality as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Krishna, who has a transcendental form of bliss, eternity, and knowledge. I offer my respect to him because understanding him means understanding the Vedas, and he is therefore the supreme spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna, who has a body of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. He has no beginning, for he is the beginning of everything. He is the cause of all causes. Elsewhere it is said, the Supreme Absolute Truth is a person, his name is Krishna, and he sometimes descends on this earth. Similarly, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find a description of all kinds of incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this list, the name of Krishna also appears. But then it is said that this Krishna is not an incarnation of God, but is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, there is nothing superior to my form as the personality of Godhead Krishna. He also says elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, I am the origin of all the demigods. And after understanding Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, Arjuna also confirms this in the following words. I now fully understand that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, and that you are the refuge of everything. Therefore, the universal form which Krishna showed to Arjuna is not the original form of God. The original is the Krishna form. The universal form, with its thousands and thousands of heads and hands, is manifest just to draw the attention of those who have no love for God. It is not God's original form. The universal form is not attractive for pure devotees who are in love with the Lord in different transcendental relationships. The Supreme Godhead exchanges transcendental love in his original form of Krishna. Therefore, to Arjuna, who is so intimately related with Krishna in friendship, this form of universal manifestation was not pleasing, rather it was fearful. Arjuna, who was a constant companion of Krishna, must have had transcendental eyes. He was not an ordinary man. Therefore, he was not captivated by the universal form. This form may seem wonderful to persons who are involved in elevating themselves by fruitive activities, but to persons who are engaged in devotional service, the two-handed form of Krishna is the most dear. Now coming to the 55th slok. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me as the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. Anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Lok planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the supreme personality Krishna must take this formula as stated by the Supreme himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls who are engaged in the material world with the purpose of lording it over nature and who do not know of the real spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the Supreme Spiritual Personality, and to teach one how to go back home, back to Godhead. Now here is the verse which clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in his spiritual activity, devotional service. As far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities. No work should be done by any man except in relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna Karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the result of his work. The result should be done only for him. For example, one may be engaged in business, but to transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. The word Mat Parama refers to one who considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. Such a person does not wish to be elevated to the higher planets such as the moon or sun or heavenly planets, or even the highest planet of this universe, Brahmalok. He has no attraction for that. He is only attracted to being transferred to the spiritual sky. And even in the spiritual sky, he is not satisfied with merging into the glowing Brahma Jyoti effulgence, for he wants to enter the highest spiritual planet, namely Krishna Lok, Golak Vrindavan. He has full knowledge of that planet and therefore he is not interested in any other. As indicated by the word Mad Bhakta, he fully engages in devotional service, specifically in the 9 processes of devotional engagement: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with him, and surrendering everything to him. One can engage in all 9 devotion processes, or 8 or 7, or at least in one, and that will surely make one perfect. The term Sangha Varjita is very significant. One should disassociate himself from persons who are against Krishna. Not only are the atheistic persons against Krishna, but so also are those who are attracted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. If anyone wants to execute unalloyed devotional service, he must be freed from all kinds of material contamination. He must be freed from the association of persons who are addicted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. When freed from such unwanted association and from the contamination of material desires, one favorably cultivates knowledge of Krishna, that is called pure devotional service. A devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is reliving one's neighbor from all material problems. In such a way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now, we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such persons must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. In summary, the universal form of Krishna, which is a temporary manifestation, and the form of time, which devours everything, and even the form of Vishnu, 400, have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus, Krishna is the origin of all these manifestations. It is not that Krishna is a manifestation of the original Vishnu. Krishna is the origin of all forms. There are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important but the original form, two-handed Syamsundara. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that those who are attached to the Syamsundara form of Krishna in love and devotion can see him always within the heart and cannot see anything else. One should understand therefore that the purport of the 11th chapter is that the form of Krishna is essential and supreme. With this we end the Bhakti Vedanta purports to the 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the universal form. So we have completed this entire chapter with all the 55 shloks in this video. We are going to start with the 12th chapter, which is devotional service, in the next video. My name is Disha and I will see you all in the next video.